I don't even know how to start this one. So let's do the basics, shall we? My name is Gabriel Blythe. I am a survivor in the Great Salt Lake area. I am broadcasting on all frequencies, and if you have been listening for a while, you probably could tell that I was radio silent. You probably thought the worst, and I'm sorry about that. But at the same time, I sit here and I reach out and see if anything changes, and some things do, and other things I feel don't. So I headed down to the camp that I mentioned. Took me a couple of days to get there. Felt like almost the entire week. Like I had worried, once you get past a certain point in the valley, there aren't any more buildings to hide behind. No alleyways. Just fields of brush. Next to nothing else. What was worse is on the way to the camp, I saw more groups. Not covered in blood and gore like the last one, but definitely violent. I'm not sure after 33 weeks of this is to be expected or unusual. They were quick, too. Not running, but they also never really got tired. And they seemed to have a good sense of where I was, which is extremely unnerving. Hide in a building, and they would just hang out until I either snuck out or eventually they would lose interest and move on, but only after a few hours. And there were different groups, too. All different, but their skin pulled taut, eyes wide and dry, black ichor staining their skin. I'd pull away from one group, and there would be another, 5 or 6 of them, as if they were tracking me. Not only was that one group aware that I was there, but all of them individually were on the hunt. Smell, movement, tracks, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out how they were able to hunt me down. I didn't have any issues once I usually got inside, though. No broken glass or busted doors. Once I was inside, they would circle the building I was hiding in for hours. But, yeah. I don't remember getting much rest, to be honest. And I would watch the door to the room I was hiding in. Closets, bathrooms, furnaces, anything that just seemed to have only one way in and out. Sounds stupid in retrospect. No chance to escape if they did break in. But fortunately, they never came a-knocking. Once I got into the fields, I was a bit more scared, but at the same time, I felt a small bit of calm. I would at least see them coming. It would give me plenty of time to run to cover and plan my next steps. But at the same time, if I could see them coming, so could they see me? Felt way more exposed than usual, and I would not recommend it. Means I couldn't hide easily. Couldn't rest. Couldn't eat. So at the last chance that I could, I took a long nap, barricading myself in this small family's home. Probably had more people living inside than it was made for. A lot of beds. More than couches. Made for great barricades once I felt confident the others were no longer interested or tracking me. Ate some rations, and then, after I felt confident, I went on my way. I imagined before all of this, it was probably a 20-minute drive. Crossing Bluffdale felt like it took hours. The sun had already gone behind the mountain, and what little light I had was dwindling fast. So much for my advantage of seeing them before they saw me. I remember hoping that they didn't have dark vision. The jokes we tell ourselves to keep us going, right? You get it. After a few hours, and the tension growing, I finally climbed the hill and found the entrance to the base. Helicopters and tanks stood like metal beasts in slumber as the light dwindled, making them seem far more ominous. They were angled towards the main thoroughfare, so it felt like they were ready to charge towards you. I imagine some of them are purely decoration, but others are not quite decommissioned yet. I stayed here once, as a scout. I can't even remember really why I was there, but I do remember after some activity watching a lame movie about how proud of you should be of your country and God and something like that. I remember it being really cold and the food was miserable. But when I was there, then, all those years ago, even though we didn't see many people coming or going, it still had a life to it. Lights in a barricade, a jeep moving people here to there. This was dead. I know I've talked about how when the event happened, that it was early in the morning and not many people were on the road. But there were still a few cars in the street. But at this base, it was like everything was perfectly parked and set in its place. Like your one friend who claims to have OCD, but they really just like things to be tidy. The buildings were packed tightly together, but none of them stood very tall. All of them clearly marked. Unfortunately, however, there's no map to tell you here is where they store information on Project Ma and Endless. So I walked around, at first, using cover. Look how professional I sound. Like a true thief in the night, a true military mindset. Holding to the edges of each building, peering around corners as if I was in a spy film. But after some time, I found that it was empty, and all my great stealthing had been for naught. I did find the weapons storage. It was easy to imagine myself swapping my crowbar for something with more firepower. Very video game, one weapon at a time kind of thing. Or having a last stand here as wave after wave met a brutal end. But remember when I said I didn't like violence? I guess we all change. Besides, there are too many reasons not to pick up a weapon like that. First, the noise. It would obviously draw the others, and second, it's possible you don't have to defend yourself, but now you have new guns and tools from violent humans. I can only imagine what Eileen would have done if they thought I was armed, that I was dangerous. And sometimes having firepower is just mutually assured destruction. So I moved on and continued my hunt for information for my pen, rather than bullets for my sword. Eventually, I came across a very different building. Instead of short, long buildings that had barracks or garage or mess written all over it, it was a small, square building that looked like it was a temporary building. That was the size of a classroom, the ones they leave outside of a school building for temporary use, and then it just stays there forever. Above the door on this temporary school classroom building was Ops. Felt like a good lead after walking around in silence for what felt like an hour. It was getting really dark, and I figured if I turned on a light, it would draw more attention, so let's play it safe. I opened the door. and the very first thing that I saw was an elevator. One of those old ones where it had a cage for a door. I tried the button, and to no one's surprise, it didn't run. But you never know, maybe this was a secret bunker with secret power still running through it. Had to try. What looked like a closet turned out to be stairs leading down, and down, and down, and down. A large staircase that felt like they descended into nothingness. So I tried my flashlight, and the light couldn't find the bottom in the large gap between all of the steps. I had a flash of nausea from being that high up, which my brain promptly told me, you can't get dizzy from being high up when you're underground. So I told my gut, suck it up, and I started walking. It smelled of rusty metal and mildew, and the lower I got, the more potent that smell was. There were floors, and they had numbering, but no information on what the floor held or did. I would peek in on a level and see if there was anything of interest. Most of it was open office spaces. The higher up levels felt like a classic tech startup kind of space. Large desks, vending machines, crappy military motivational posters. After a few floors, though, it felt like all the attention went to the higher up floors. Those ones got the fresh paint, new furniture, computers. The lower offices, well, felt almost abandoned. But after going into a few different spaces, I found a level that had my name written all over it. Well, that is if you were to spell my name as Brigadier Eva Schuster. I walked in and there was a secretary desk, and behind that was a wall of glass with that wiry mesh in between the plates of glass. At one point in time, I imagine you had to be buzzed in to see our brigadier here. But today, all I needed was my, you guessed it, crowbar. It took a lot of effort, but by the time I was able to pry my way in, I broke the glass, dented the frame, and finally opened the door. But I was so close. Nothing was gonna stop me. Behind the security door, mostly made of glass, that's now shattered on broken in many places, was another door. I know. Frustrating. This new door, however, looked something like you would find as if you were walking into your CEO's office, and they were some bigwig, so they needed all the pomp and circumstance they could get, right? Inside was a large office with a desk that easily filled the space and could hold several people at it. Brigadier Messinger, eat your heart out. She had a computer on her desk, and I figured there was nothing I could do about that right now. So I cracked it open, and she had 6 hard drives crammed into that machine. Either they were all connected to make one giant hard drive, or she believed in backups. I knew I wasn't going to get answers from that until I got back to base. Well, this base, my base, that is. She had some files on her desk about nothing revealing. However, locked away inside her desk drawers were some very juicy gossip. Of course I took a look. I'm there, I might as well, Did you know that Private Kane was to be dismissed for soliciting favors? For opportunities to work the mess hall, just to be close to Private Lee? Just goes to show, people always think that they're, Romeo and Juliet, while everyone else is just trying to do their stupid job. Keep it together, Kane, come on. Stupid. After I found that bit of gossip, I found a folder marked Project Ma. Anyone want to guess what Ma stood for? Remember, that's M-A-A-W. Nope, not even close. I'll give you another chance. Nope, still wrong. Ooh, so close. I mean, not really. Ma stands for Massive Area Attacks and Weaponry. Why it doesn't have 4 A's in it, I don't know. You don't conclude the conjunction words like and, apparently. It didn't take long before a lot of the handwriting and notes started going over my head, though. Kind of like your doctor's signature on a bumpy road. What I could gather, however, is that it wasn't just weaponry. Brigadier Eva here liked the idea of combining it with Project Endless. The mystery goes deeper. Applying something from that massive area side of things. So, what is it? Is it a bioweapon? Is it what caused all of this? I wish I had a good answer for you, but there wasn't anything there about Project Endless. At least, not before I got interrupted. From out in the hall, I heard a crash. As if a body had fallen onto a metal staircase just outside. It was loud, and I could hear it echo. I peeked out of Eva's office, and my heart sank. There stood 5, maybe 6 of them, of the others. They obviously had been here for a while, dressed in their army fatigues and tactical camo. I should get me some of that now that I think about it. They were shambling, just like the others. But again, with purpose, looking for something. And at this rate, they could only be looking for someone. I started weighing my options. I only had one exit. This is where the hindsight of locking myself into a single entrance room kind of came kicking in. So I bunkered down. Bunkered in a bunker. I leaned myself against the door, and I waited, hoping that, like earlier, they would lose interest. But faster. After 20 minutes of breathing as quietly as I could, slam went something on the other side of the door. I was able to keep the door closed with my body, but barely. Slam! Again, and I braced myself against the door, pushing back. I didn't want to give them an inch. I want to say that I did something really cool here. I saw a Great War era grenade, and I was able to clear the hallway, or my father's coin, and I threw it, and it distracted them. But I did the boring and smart thing, and I kept waiting. After another 20 minutes, I peeked out, and I saw that they were now spread out. 3 on one end, 3 on the other. So I ran out. I was only, 10 floors from the surface? I could run that easy. So instead of trying to stealth my way out, I bolted, and I kicked the door down to the stairwell. And I paused. I saw 2 of them climbing the stairs, like children not fully able to walk. The lack of sun made them easy to spot because their skin was gray, teeth exposed, their lips cracked and pulled away, and I froze. I couldn't move. They seemed to have the same thought as we stared each other down. I waited, a breath. And the other, with a long ponytail, looked up, jaw unhinged, and screamed. The scream was like she was dying. Maybe it wasn't a scream, but a moaning that made my blood cold. like concrete grinding on concrete, and without a moment of hesitation, the two of them charged towards me. I turned as if I was going to be safe in Eva's office, but the others in there were already heading my way, so I started taking those stairs by threes, climbing them as fast as I could, while hearing the metal rattle behind me as I was being followed. After 4 flights, my legs began burning. All I could think was how I needed to learn more about Project Ma and read what was on these stupid hard drives. But I knew I wasn't going to be able to make it up another flight without slowing down, just a little. So I had the bright idea. If I run into one of the larger offices, lead them in a circle, I could lock those ones in, and I can climb the stairs to safety without as much to worry about, you know? Once there, I would be out in the open again, fresh air on my face. So I decided I climbed my last flight before I could try and lock them out. My lungs were on fire. My legs just wobbled beneath me, and the backpack never felt heavier. And I wanted to just dump everything and try and take whatever advantage I could. The entire time I could hear them howling, sickening wail as they climbed the stairs behind me. I couldn't look back. I didn't want to know how close they were. I think the fear kept me going because even as I was thinking about the plan before I realized it, I had climbed another 4 flights. At that rate, I only had 2 to go. Once that dawned on me, the fire in my legs and lungs changed to a fire in my gut. I was almost free. I must have been down there a long while because as I rounded the final flight, I could see daylight pouring through the open door. I turned another corner and I had put a lot of distance between me and the others. Almost 2 whole flights behind me. I knew that it wouldn't last, but I was confident that I was going to be safe. I ran through the door, into the small classroom-sized space, and there they were. 30 more of the others. Skin gray, tattered army garb, black ichor, dripping onto the floor. They were waiting for me. Crouched, ready to leap forward, hissing and snarling at my presence, and that anger that they had just started bubbling in my brain. I have been alone for so many months. I have lost time and time again. I remember the edges of the crowbar as I gripped it tight to the point where it hurt. And that rage of failure decided we weren't going to be just another victim. Not again. Not today. I screamed. I screamed as I berserked. I could feel my throat tear, and I immediately could taste my own blood. It only served to motivate me more. I jumped headfirst, pulling that crowbar through the air and smashing a head in. I was overwhelmed so fast, but that didn't stop my rage, kicking and flailing. I'd push one to a side and another would come and attack, their cold hands grasping at me, clawing at me, drawing blood. But I wasn't the one bleeding. Their howling came to a crescendo as I felt suffocated, pushed back into the wall, their cold flesh trying to pull me from mine. Then, everything went black. I was surprised. This is how I died. Not a flashback of my entire life, but instead, darkness. But when the pressure continued, I blinked and I saw white outlines. I saw these white lines highlighting the edge of of everything. I could see the bodies of the others, their eyes filled with black, their teeth outlined in that white. The door, the stairs, everything. White lines. As if it was drawn on black paper. It went silent. I couldn't hear them howling. I saw them moving, but it was quiet. Not even a ringing in my ears. Then the window shattered, adding to those white lines in a spray, and it was so loud that I thought my ears were going to explode. It was so loud, the others, all of them, stopped and turned. On the edge of the now broken window was a single raven. It hopped back side to side, looking everything up and down as if measuring up the place. And then it called out, that gronk. And then came a swarm of them. Hundreds of ravens, landing on the broken window around the space. Anywhere they could land, really. And then with a flash, bright white light, and a boom came from outside. And in walked her. No, she didn't walk. She seemed to really glide in. She cocked her head around like the ravens. And in this echoing voice that made my chest vibrate, "You abominations shall no longer walk this world, so saith the Raven Queen." She raised her hands, her fingers clenched strangely, and she grinned. That white line showing her teeth, the corners of her lips pulling back. And in that same voice, she said, "Sick 'em." I remember feeling like I was dropped to the ground, and the ravens flew into the fray. I remember hearing howling, but quickly the cawing became louder. I saw the ravens peck and claw, loose feathers flying, and others grabbing wildly, trying to defend themselves. I tried to get up, but something pulled me back down, and I hit my head on something hard. And then I felt very cold. I finally opened my eyes. The sun was bright, and this woman was standing above me, this Raven Queen, with a raven on her shoulder looking down at me. She cocked her head to one side and said,
"Hey, who are you talking to?"
No one. I guess, just an unpaid therapist.
Well, that sounds real dumb.
Yep. I can see how it does. What's up?
You said there was a shower with warm water?
Oh, yeah. Here, let me show you.
Why were you talking to yourself?
Hmm?
You aren't alone. Not anymore.